You are watching The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, your escape to reality.
Hey, happy Halloween, everyone.
Hey, happy Halloween.
Hello. Hello.
Day before Halloween.
I'm in the front of a picture I took of my summer home. You guys have to join me next time
I'll
I'm
have to
there.
visit.
It's
Nice, especially at night.
It's actually my summer swamp shack. It's not haunted or anything.
Where is it?
Not yet.
The bayou?
No, it's in Transylvania.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Scranton, Transylvania.
Scranton, Transylvania.
But what is that? Is that just a Halloween themed image behind you?
Who, me?
Dave, why are you going
Yeah.
to ruin everything?
All right.
Evan.
So
It's very spooky.
it's Evan is Adam Savage.
Yes. Someone told me once a long time ago that I might look a little bit like him.
Yeah, it comes
So
up every once in a while.
Every once in a while. Once a year. Yes.
And Kara, this magnificent costume that you're wearing.
I dissent.
That's the best. Where's your gavel? Do Supreme Court justices have gavels?
I would
don't
have
know.
I would have like a whole box.
I don't even know
Probably
that.
You know.
the Chief Justice probably does.
Oh, maybe.
Roberts.
Interesting.
I mean, I owned all of this already, except for this.
Yeah, that was all
It's a
you
pretty
needed.
easy costume to throw together.
I like easy costumes. See, a hat and me.
That's your normal weekly garb, Evan.
I
It
just walk
is,
around in my
actually.
graduation gown all the time.
Mm-hmm.
My regalia. Hey, Ian. I chatted you a message in the chat window.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I have,
what
of
is-
course, an elaborate costume on, which you could tell right away, of course.
Oh yeah.
Steve's dressed as a nerd.
So I hate to say this, but I mean, it's like this is going to be a really terrible Halloween just because, like nothing's happening.
Well, it's
Well,
snowing. That's something. It's actually snowing in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Like legit snow, like not a dusting. Like it is. There is snow on the ground. Always something off when it snows and there's still the leaves are on the trees.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yes.
Of course, you always worry about the damage to the trees. But yeah, it's not going. Tomorrow's not going to be a good night for trick or treating.
Well, you can't do it in
Cold.
Connecticut. A lot of states have banned it. So I'm trying to come up with interesting things for my kids, and they're asking me what's going on, and I just keep telling them, "You'll see."
You'll see. Yeah, that's
It's a
right.
surprise to me and
Terrible.
you.
I'm just pushing that, 10 hours away from me.
Just-
Kara, your costume is so good, it's kind of freaky.
I already kind of look like her, so that's easy.
Yeah, I know. I didn't
It's
realize
easy.
it until you did that.
Easy.
Yeah.
I want to actually change my name, but I don't know how in Zoom. I'm going to figure this out while
You
we're
just click it.
chatting.
Right click on your window, I think,
Oh, that's
and
it?
should give you the rename option.
Oh, well, that's easy.
That's easy. Ask me your questions.
Jay,
so
do you have
notorious.
video from Bob's Haunt or no?
I talked to Bob today,
Yeah.
and Bob decided that he wanted me to show it next week when he's here so he can talk people through it.
You mean when Halloween's over and no one gives a shit then? That's when we
Well,
should.
Yeah, but I mean,
Bob
you know,
will give a shit.
you know what happens if Bob doesn't get his way. So I was like, okay, Bob. You know,
Okay, Bob, that's fine.
when
Real
it comes
good.
to Halloween, you don't mess with Bob. You just, all right, that's fine. I don't care.
So is the hunt happening? Are people going?
Right now, yeah, in about a half an hour, people are going to start going.
It was questionable on whether, because of the weather, if it was going to actually open tonight, but it cleared out. So it's just cold, and they'll do it.
Right.
So
I'm
just
actually
by-
going to be eating in a restaurant, not in, outside of, for the first time tonight.
Oh wow!
Oh,
I know.
I haven't done that in so long.
What are you
I can't
What are you
even
having? Do you
remember.
already know what you're having?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to like it's a fancy restaurant, like my favorite place in LA, Osteria Mozza. There's
Oh.
also a pizzeria, and apparently they've combined forces. And like I don't know, there's a patio that I never knew existed, and so they're only doing outdoor dining with all these restrictions. But I haven't done that before. It's going to be weird.
We did it one
Try
time.
to enjoy
We did
yourself.
One outdoor dining. It
How was it?
It was fine, and the tables were socially distanced, but you still had the servers sort of meandering around.
But they had
yeah.
masks on, right? The servers.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, everyone has
Yeah,
masks on.
yeah.
It's it was as good as you could get, I guess.
I mean, the person I'm going with is in my bubble. Like I see
Yeah.
her, we go on hikes once a week, and she gets tested 3 times a week for work.
Is that a
So
new
I
thing
feel-
now? Like, who's in your bubble? Like, that's a new social convention, your COVID bubble?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not
Weird.
foolproof though. But
No, of course not. But it's still better to have that.
I
Yeah,
suppose, yeah, any limiting of the contact is a positive. Just
But
limiting
Steve,
the
do you
number of
mean-
people.
Is it a thing? Is that what you're asking? Is that a thing now?
Yeah, just
Yeah,
people talk
it's
about
a,
that.
It's a
yeah.
definite thing.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, my wife and my child. That's
Yeah,
it.
me too.
And my people and my coworkers at work, 2 coworkers. That's pretty much it.
Oh right, because you guys have people in your house with you. It's just me and Killer all day, day.
Oh, killer.
You guys,
Yeah.
he had surgery this week.
That's
what?
right.
What is
Yeah,
it?
you were posting about it.
So he had ear infections and they kept coming back. And I was taking him to the same vet and they were like, they would just keep treating them. And finally, I did a lot of research and I took him to a new vet. And I was like, I want cytology. I want you to image his eardrum. I want to know what's going on. And he was like, yeah, so he's got a polyp, like a little tumor in his ear, and it seems to be trapping the bacteria.
So they're gonna cut the thing out or what?
They already did. On Monday, I took him in. They cut it out. He said the margins were really clean. It came out really easy. And it's now at the pathology lab. So I don't know yet if it's going to come back benign or malignant. We're
Yeah.
waiting on that. We have a plan of action if it does come back malignant. He goes back in on Monday to just make sure it's healing okay. But he's a champ. It's like the first night he had a little like anesthesia, like Harry Carey kind of, but then after that he was totally as if he never had surgery.
Wow. Good.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do you know, I wrote about the evolution of dogs today because there was a study that came out. There was, as early as 11,000 years ago, there were already 5 different breeds of dog.
What were they? Do they know
Wow.
what the breeds were?
Well, they weren't anything that correlates with modern breeds. They were just clearly 5 distinct lineages of dogs.
No labradoodles.
And they only partly track with human population. So part of it is that dogs follow people and those, the dog populations follow people populations, but not completely. And there probably was some events where dogs got introduced from one population to another or replaced one population. It's a complicated story that they're only getting little pieces to the puzzle of now. But I reviewed the whole, just updated the whole situation about dog evolution. I think the most interesting fact is that dogs, it's not like we took wolves into our society and then domesticated them. They probably got a large part of the way to domestication just by living on the fringes of humans of society.
Like being hungry, basically.
And we sort of tolerated the cuter, less aggressive ones. And so they sort of evolved halfway before we then probably took over from there.
But
And-
at
They already
some
had so
point-
many traits.
Yeah.
Like they were so social already.
Yeah, but wolves are aggressive, so
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
they
I
definitely.
mean, some dogs are still aggressive.
Yeah, but nothing. Yeah, just obviously it's very, very different. But dogs evolved incredible socialization with humans. You know, like
Yeah.
the ability to interpret human emotions, interpret, you know, like human pointing. Even some primates don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Understanding a pretty big vocabulary. We talked about the fact they evolved the ability to be expressive themselves with their eyebrows. The range of when dogs were first domesticated, and it may have been more than one event, so that's probably why it's not really clear, is between 19 and 32,000 years ago. So they've been with us for a long time.
Wow.
But interestingly, didn't the vast majority of breeds explode only in the last like few hundred years?
Yeah. There's really like 10 dog types, you know, and then like lots of variations of those themes, which is what really, you know, took off recently. So I do think, though, the thing is, most of the modern breeds are really, you know, in my opinion, they're not very healthy. You know, they're just extreme. You know, I would prefer, you know, somebody should breed like a totally outbred, healthy population of dogs for pet owners, you know.
I
Can you
mean, it
imagine?
sort of happens with mixed breed dogs. My dog's very
Yeah.
mixed bred.
Yeah,
and he's
that's why
pretty-
the closest you get to that, just get a mutt, just get a mixed
Yeah, get a
breed.
mutt. But they are, I did a story about dog domestication a while back for Nat Geo, and we covered these breeders that are working on what's called a Levitt bulldog. So bulldogs apparently are some of the worst, like
Yeah.
they have some of the worst health issues.
Mhm.
You know, they can't give live birth. They have to be born via C-section. They have these like messed up back legs. They have these flat faces that makes it hard to breathe. And so they are back breeding where they're putting mastiff traits back into them to like elongate their snouts and to get their haunches straight again to try and work out a lot of those health issues. And so it's like I don't know if it's an AKC breed yet, but they're trying to get it AKC certified, and they're apparently a lot healthier than like traditional bulldogs.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, they, you know, there's the variations are, you know, you can see that they have like breathing issues, and it's really, I think, kind of abusive.
Oh yeah, I mean the way that they breed these dogs is crazy. Like it can't happen on its own. We have to intervene, otherwise they wouldn't give live birth.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Kara, you know, about trying to develop a stable breed of healthy outbred dogs over just mutts, because with mutts, you know, yes, you're better off rolling those genetic dice than getting a purebred where you know they're going to have health issues. But you know, if you develop that kind of stable, healthy outbred population, you could all then select for health and longevity and personality traits and everything, because every dog's, you know, quirky. You know, there are quirks.
Yeah. And I'll
Yeah.
never have another killer because he's so far from any breed
Yeah.
that it's like he's never going to be even, not that any dog is ever replaceable, but
Yeah.
you know those people who are like, I've always had the same breed of dog my entire life,
For those who clone their dogs.
or those who clone their dogs. I have a friend who
crazy.
recently cloned his dog.
Right.
Very interesting. Very interesting. But yeah, like with killer, there's only one killer.
Yeah.
Well, let there only be one, and then you can
Yeah.
have another.
I
you
like
know,
experiencing different breeds of dogs. So we had poodle growing up. Then I got a long hair miniature dachshund, and then
Murray. His name was Murray. He was
Murray.
so
I love
cute.
dachshunds.
I know, so cute, but lots of health
A lot
problems.
of back problems.
Then we
yeah.
got a golden retriever mix, and now we got an Australian Shepherd mix.
Yeah, I have my wife and I got a black lab a year and a half ago. Actually, Steve and his wife Jocelyn paid for half of my dog as a present to my kids.
But Jay, you've been
Aw.
sticking with the poodles. for
Yeah,
a
we're gonna
while.
get a poodle
Yeah,
probably this summer. We're gonna get another standard poodle.
Oh, wow.
they're good dogs.
Yeah,
Well, I've
they're-
never paid for a dog. Every dog I've ever had has been a rescue. I've never actually lived with a purebred dog.
Yeah,
so I
our
don't know
dogs
what
have been
it's like.
rescues. Yeah, we rescue.
Yeah, you still pay for it when you get a rescue, but
You do. But
You're
but it's not
basically
for
just
their-
covering the vet fees.
yeah, you're covering
Oh,
the.
it's just like a transportation fee, a vet fee, this fee,
Yeah.
whatever. It still ends
yeah.
up being.
But you're not paying like a breeder to
Yeah.
No,
right.
no, no.
It's
You're
still cheaper
just,
than going to a breeder.
puppy mills and those kinds of things.
Oh yeah, it's like $100 if that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so we have a black lab mix. You ever hear of a healer? A dog called a healer?
Yeah.
So we think that he's part healer, part black lab because of traits that he has.
Healer is like a group, kind of like
Mhm.
right, because there's like blue heal. There's different kinds of healers. I thought.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. But but they have they're herders, you know, so they're like herding dogs, and so he's got like really interesting behavior when it comes to certain things. Like if I pick my kids up, or if I'm swinging my kids, we have a swing in our front yard. If I'm swinging them, he gets agitated. It makes him very uncomfortable, and he nips at my heels. And that's the other thing that he does is if you're running around
Protecting
him, he'll come
the
over
family.
and he'll jockey you.
He hurts you.
Well, because he's trying to herd you. My friend
Yeah.
has a mini Australian Shepherd, and he's such a herder.
Yeah,
Like he's
that's
always
what
wants us to all be in the same room.
Yeah, ours is a Australian Shepherd Husky mix. Total herder. You move anything, and he has to
Has to get in the
corral it.
way.
He was
Yep.
trying to herd our cars. Like we're driving. in and
Yeah,
out.
yeah. You have to be careful not to hit them
Yeah.
because they'll follow your cars.
There you go.
Yeah.
Or like a wheelbarrow. He's trying to herd my wheelbarrow. I mean,
Steve's dog is nuts, though. I
he's
mean, this
nuts.
dog is so funny. His personality.
adorable, but he's not.
My
Yes.
dog is like a love bomb, and Steve's dog is like a wrestler. You know,
Yeah.
like
Tasmanian devil.
this has happened more than once. I pull in Steve. Tell me if this happens to you, because when he sees me, I pull in because that's where the studio is. So I go over to Steve's house. You know, depending on what's going on, I could be going over there a lot. But when he doesn't see me for a little while, and I pull in with the car, first I'll see him like case the car. Right, he'll check me out. Then he'll get his paws up on the door because I'm always doing something. I'm collecting things. I'm finishing a phone call, whatever. And then this has happened twice. Then out of the corner of my eye, I just see his entire body like jump across the window. You know what I mean? Like he's like running to the car and then diving and jumping and trying to. I don't know what he's doing, but he's
Does he
in
get in?
midair. And I look over and he's in midair. I'm like, what are you doing? The dog
If
is
you leave
crazy.
your car door open, my dog will go into your car. It doesn't matter who you are. He wants to ride with you.
That's
Yeah. But he's so small, he has to jump onto the floorboard first and then onto the seat. He can't like make
Can't
it
wait
all
to
the way
meet him.
up
He's
to
so,
the seat.
He's so cute.
Aw.
He's such a cute
I'm gonna
dog.
actually grab him. He's sleeping right next to me.
You should have put a doily around his neck too.
Oh, killer Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah. So, Steve, are you saying though that there would be a very big difference between? Oh, look at Killer.
Oh my goodness! Hi.
Oh, his coloring is
Hey.
gorgeous.
I know.
So, Steve, is there a big difference between a like let's say you take two purebred dogs and they have a puppy, they have a bunch of puppies. Are those puppies a lot healthier than the parents because they're
Well,
not
they're going to be
purebred
healthier
anymore?
than the parents, but it's that first generation, hybrid is a very, very unpredictable.
Yeah.
It might also pull out some recessive traits
Yeah.
if both parents are carriers. So even though they're likely to be more healthy, there's a chance that they'll end up with something pretty horrible in that first generation. It takes a lot of generations for them to kind of breed out.
To get it to be
you
a
want
have a
more than
stable-
just two.
stable population. Yeah.
So can we use CRISPR at all to help in the whole process of this?
Probably.
We probably will, actually. That'll probably be like pre-human,
Right.
because we're still a little about human CRISPR, but I could see people wanting to get down with the dogs. You can clone dogs legally.
Right.
so-
So I figured that would be, not too far, a bridge not too far.
I want CRISPR to have something to do with the first fusion reactor. Like I want them to make someone with CRISPR that gives them some special way to interact with the fusion reactor. That's what I want. That's
Okay.
what I
All
want
CRISPR
technology
can
to do.
do is like turn on and turn off genes you already have.
Right, so maybe we have a gene that allows us to speak to technology. You don't know. What do you know, Kara?
Yeah, it's called the Hulk gene.
Yeah,
Turn-
Yeah, they can splice in new segments. It's not just
Right, but but there are no animals that can do that.
Oh yeah.
As far as we know,
It has to exist in nature already.
Well,
for
They
Jay
them
just
to
wants-
haven't been
exist.
created yet.
Jay wants the
Synthetic.
mutant
Yeah, we're not
genes
there yet with like
from
synthetic
Marvel
life.
universe.
yeah, I want
Yeah,
something
that's right.
really cool. We need it. We deserve it. The world has been so screwed up this past year. that we deserve some type of cool thing like this in technology, some massive breakthrough that is on the level of the internet to happen. We deserve it. I'm waiting for it.
So Jay,
Yes.
can I tell you about my favorite dish that I'm going to eat tonight? Because I think you'll appreciate this.
I am so hungry. What are you going to eat? How do you know I'm hungry? Go ahead.
I just know. I know you love this stuff because it's Italian and it's
Because
delicious.
you're awake.
So I'll have my favorite salad and I'll have my favorite main. But in between,
Yes.
I always get this. It's a single raviolo. It's this big.
Yes.
So it's one big raviolo. It sits in the middle of the plate. Inside of the raviolo is ricotta and a poached egg.
Regatta and a
Poached
poached
egg.
egg. That sounds great.
And then it's covered in brown butter and sage.
Of course. Yes.
So when you cut into it, the yolk like runs into the butter.
oh,
and
man.
it's ridiculous.
I could eat like three
It
of
sounds
those.
good.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, it's like a heart attack on a plate, and you can only do it like once every 6 months, but it's so good.
So what's funny? My adorable grandmother, my father's mother, right? You remember Mama?
Of
Mama.
course.
She was an Italian grandmother.
Yes.
She came over from Italy when she was 14. She still had a little bit of an Italian accent, even her whole life. She would say raviolis.
Yeah.
The plural, like to make ravioli
Plural, the plural.
It's like it's an Italian word. You speak Italian. It's ravioli. You don't.
Right, raviolo.
She got
ravioli.
Americanized real quick.
She felt like she had to Americanize it.
Yeah.
But it's like even in America we don't say raviolis. It's ravioli.
But that's why in our family though we will say it that way because our grandmothers didn't teach us how to speak Italian. Isn't that crazy? Like they deliberately didn't teach their kids other languages to Americanize them. It's like
My mom didn't teach me Spanish. And it bums me out to this day, right? It was her native language. It was her first language. She is a Spanish teacher. That's what she did until she retired. But because my father didn't speak it, I never heard her in the home unless she was on the telephone. Yeah. And it never really just wore off on me. I mean, I picked it up a little from living in Texas. I obviously took it in school, but when you're learning academic Spanish from the age, like from 8th grade forward, you've missed a really important time to be able to make it
your window.
native.
Yeah, and make it stick and speak without an accent and everything. Absolutely.
The weird thing is I can pull off the accent really well. Like I could read you a book in Spanish in like a Puerto Rican more accent. And, but I wouldn't know everything I was saying because my processing speed isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And I can only really speak in the first person, or not the first person.
Yeah, I mean that was definitely a missed opportunity. Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Being bilingual from birth is there's a lot of advantages there.
Yeah.
You should call your mom up and just hang up on her.
Lessons.
Just hang up, and that'll teach her.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to say something that's going to get me angry. Okay. So I'm still pissed off. I'm still pissed off that Joe Rogan had Alex Jones on his goddamn podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I know we talked about this on the show, but I had to bring it up again because I'm still pissed off from 2 days ago about this.
Steve, does any of this make it into the show?
I mean, it's going to be edited down significantly because Jay rants for like 20 minutes about Joe Rogan.
Only 20?
Does that mean I could talk about it right now?
Longer than that.
It was a long rant.
I'll just give you a little teaser because the problem with this, there's a couple of things that really tweak me about this. One, because first off, Joe Rogan, in my opinion, just does not like to be contradicted, and like his opinion is his opinion. He will not or has refused to interview Steve because Steve butts heads with him on like the dumbest thing.
Specifically because I don't believe in the claims made for the cryotherapy. This stepping into
that was really the sticking point.
Really
he
cryotherapy.
got
That's the hill you're going to
honestly, he doesn't really talk to me anymore. And he was my first guest on Talk Nerdy. He's the reason I started Talk Nerdy because I was a somewhat common guest on his show, maybe 3 times, something like that. And, we used to be not like good friends, but like if I texted him, he would text me back, but that doesn't happen anymore.
But that's the weird thing. And that's one of the anomalies about this guy. Like he wants to die on that hill. Who gives a shit about this cold therapy bullshit? It's like,
he does
all right.
because he does it.
Yeah. He's
yeah, but like
it's a sacred cow.
Yeah, you're right. But to me, it's a ridiculous sacred cow. If you're gonna have a sacred cow, have it be a deity. At least have it be something huge. But not like not going into a cold machine. I just think it's ridiculous. So anyway,
yeah, but you have to remember that his worldview was built around competition and athleticism, and so I think a lot of the sports pseudoscience speaks to him in a really meaningful way because he comes from that world.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. This pushed me over the edge with him. I could still listen to his podcast, and there was I found entertainment value in it, and I respect him because he's built probably the biggest and most powerful podcast in the world. That deserves credit. And he deserves the credit for that. But I'm angry at him because he's taking his platform and he's throwing it away.
Right, and it's not a new thing. He's had Alex Jones on before. He's often had these really ridiculous people on. But I think contextually, not that you could give him a pass back then either, but right now, specifically right now, is the most dangerous time
Yeah.
to have somebody on who's spewing violent and aggressively false,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
whatever. I don't want to call it fake news. It's not news. Just,
It's
just
bullshit.
garbage.
This
Just
is
lies.
garbage. Yeah.
Just lies. Yeah. Somebody who's spewing lies, but lies that directly affect people's health and well-being, lies that directly affect people's
Yeah, who's he gonna have on next?
ability to thrive.
Gwyneth Paltrow? Might as well
I
have
know,
her
right?
on.
I know, definitely. But that's the part of it that really, eats away at me, is that you see these people who, with, it's the comic book, with power comes responsibility. I mean, he's got hundreds of thousands of people, he could have 1 million people listening.
Oh, he's
to
the
that
top
podcast.
He's probably the top podcaster.
Yeah,
Oh, it's,
so-
I'm
I
sure
would
it's
think.
probably over a
Probably
million.
number one.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
got millions.
He's
millions
like
of
an
people.
order of magnitude, like
The way they're
more
paying
listenership
him?
than some of
Yeah.
the
Oh, yeah.
biggest podcasts.
Yeah, he's
So,
number one.
That aggravates the hell out of me. But
Yeah.
the thing that really, it's funny how certain things just flip my switches. When he was fact checking Alec Jones during his podcast, which I know he does, but
Oh, did you listen to it?
I listened to most of it. Yeah,
Ugh, I
it
couldn't
was
do
bad.
that.
It was
His
bad.
episodes are too long.
That was the bad part. Like, holy shit! I thought our podcast was long. You got to get a fucking meal in the middle of the podcast if you want
Times
to make
two
it
speed
through.
is your friend with those.
When I
kinds
used
of
to
shit.
go on his show, I would tell him I have a 2-hour limit. I cannot sit here for 3 hours, and people would write in and be pissed. Like, why was your episode so short?
But
How come
But
you
for
don't
him
conform,
to not
Kara?
go into that discussion with Alec Jones, with his guns loaded, raring to go against him, and to confront the things that he says, I mean, it's just so
I have to conclude
incompetent.
that he doesn't care. But the thing that I
doesn't care.
find, not that I care about not going on his show, but just as a general rule, like if you have that sacred cow, if you have a belief that you care about, defend it. You can't defend it. You can't. You're afraid that somebody who disagrees with you, holds a different opinion. If you really think that that's true, then hold up your end. I will talk with anybody. I don't care what they disagree with me about, because I know if I'm right, I should be able to eviscerate them, and if I'm wrong, I will happily change my opinion.
Well, and it felt weird because it felt a little turf war-y, right? Like, because he's like he didn't want to come on our show. Like, he didn't want you on his show, but he'll come on our show. Like, and it's like, what is this?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, who cares?
Both or neither? I don't know.
I still think he would be a very fun interview because of the places that we could go. I mean, because I would confront him on this, and I think that would be a great conversation. And I'd love to hear what he has to say about it.
Jay, you want to
I-
get mad about something else so we can get off that topic?
What? Sure. What happened now?
So this is a paper that was published in a peer-reviewed journal. Here's the
God
title.
damn it!
Right? Can traditional Chinese medicine provide insights into controlling the COVID-19 pandemic? Serpentinization-induced lithospheric long-wavelength magnetic anomalies in proterozoic bedrocks in a weakened geomagnetic field mediate the aberrant transformation of biogenic molecules in COVID-19 via magnetic catalysis.
Of course.
What all
You
that
talking about
means,
rocks?
all that means is that he claims that nephrite jade amulets can prevent COVID-19.
Yeah,
Jade
of course they can.
amulets.
Now, of course,
That's a testable.
1270
That is a
AD.
testable claim. I will give you that.
Yeah.
Totally testable.
so he was called out on it by just politely, like people saying, "So, do you have any evidence, for the claim that you come to at the end of that paper?" And this is what he wrote in return. This pretty much tells you everything. Well, I'm probably going to talk about this next week on the show because this is just too much good shit here, but just to give you a preview. He writes, I kindly suggest you read the article and examine the evidence provided. I also suggest you read the history of science and how zealots have consistently attempted to block and ridicule novel ideas that challenge the predominant paradigm from individuals that are deemed not intelligent enough.
Okay.
I'm not surprised that this article has elicited angry responses. Clearly, the idea that a black scientist can provide a paradigm-shifting idea offends a lot of individuals. I'll be very candid with you. My skin color has no bearing on my intelligence. If you have legitimate concerns about the article and wish to discuss, I'll address. However, I will not tolerate racism or intellectual intolerance targeted at me.
Okay. So, racist Steve, what do you say to
So
that?
that
Well,
is
but it is frustrating because probably people are being racist towards him.
not that I've
And so-
seen, Kara. I mean, that I'm sure someone somewhere is, but not in any of the conversations that I'm looking at. It's just scientists like Adam, Caulfield, and people who are science communicators saying, you how do you justify this claim? And rather than trying to articulate a defense, he's like, well, clearly you don't understand quantum mechanics or spin chemistry, and you're an idiot, and you're a racist, and I'm not even going to bother talking to you. I mean,
Well,
So
there
wait,
you go.
did this guy like have a profile before this paper?
No, I
What
don't
did he
think so.
used to write about?
again, I have to do a deep dive for next
Yeah,
week.
like I'm interested how he just
Yeah,
kind of came out of the woodwork with this crazy claim.
He's that jade guy. He made the jade eggs that Paltrow sells.
No,
at
Wait, he's the
Goop
same
right
guy?
No.
Oh,
No,
But
Evan's making that
you know,
up.
Steve, the point is like that guy, has his minute
Sorry.
in the spotlight.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know how legitimate it is. Meaning how is he making money off of this? Whatever.
No, just getting notoriety, published
Yeah.
a peer-reviewed paper.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
just nonsense.
Just be able to
And
say
I read the
cure
paper. I actually
treatment
read-
for COVID-19
I
and
read
throw
his
whatever your
paper.
thing is, and
It's
you got
typical pseudosscientific gobbledygook.
something.
We've
We've been dealing with for 25 years
This guy's,
now and
in
more.
my opinion, so far, I'll go do a deeper dive and come to a more thorough opinion. But at first blush, this guy looks like a crank. He's all jargon, like unnecessary jargon, not clarifying precise jargon, but completely unnecessary jargony bullshit.
Yeah, it's
That's-
like he used the list generator. I'm going to
Yeah.
use this word and this word and this word.
Yeah.
String them
and
together.
is he a sole author on
And
the
then-
paper?
And then I think so. And then his defense is, exactly what you just can't stand this paradigm shifting ideas, No, it just sounds like scientific nonsense. That's what we can't
Well,
say.
it's also dangerous.
Yeah, right.
I
So-
have
Well, if you're
these-
going to claim that, yeah, it's dangerous.
I argue with people on Facebook precisely about the idea, this very basic skeptical idea that, just because a scientist said something, someone that said, whatever it is that makes you a scientist, it could be education, achievement, whatever qualification, but like in parentheses, a scientist has said something, so therefore it's a fact. And I'm like, wait a second, you have to absolutely understand, respect, and appreciate consensus. You have to understand
Right.
consensus, because the way that science works and the way that the scientific community functions, of course it varies, but in general, somebody comes up with a thesis, comes up with a paper, the people in that field read it, study it, and then if it's really compelling, they will duplicate it.
Well, listen, the bottom line is this guy doesn't understand science.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's
this
what
is
I'm
how
saying,
science
though.
works.
He doesn't get
You
it.
publish a paper, and then you are throwing it into the meat grinder of the scientific community, and it's their job to ask tough questions, to tear it apart, to raise objections, to find flaws. And if your answer to perfectly mild, legitimate scientific pushback is clearly you don't understand science, you can't stand my paradigm shifting ideas, and you're a racist, that is not the way you proceed. That's not the way you garner respect. You push the ball forward. You are just stamping crank right on your forehead, and no
need a
one's going to take you
crank stamp.
seriously.
Pop.
Totally.
The thing that's so frustrating too, it's like I don't want to tell scientists to stay in their lanes because I sometimes feel like that's an unfair criticism. Like, oh, physicists shouldn't ever talk about philosophy. It's like, no, yes, they can. Like, especially if it's an area of great interest to them. They've done a lot of research and they've been collaborating. But what's frustrating for me is like, so a physicist is making medical claims without any multidisciplinary input.
Yeah.
Like, take this to the experts in the fields where this is relevant and collaborate with them.
Well, the other thing is this is a multi-layered pseudoscientific bullshit, Kara. So he's also not even like establishing, one paradigm shifting crazy claim at a time. He's doing multiple. Like he thinks COVID is caused by magnetic fields, and and he's making epidemiological
magnets,
claims that
Explain
could
them.
be easily examined. Like these, again, there's probably 100 ways to debunk this nonsense. But what do you expect? But saying things which are contradicted by well-established science, paradigm shifting. Again, he might as well compare himself to Galileo or Einstein.
Yeah, right.
Those
Exactly.
are the next words out of his face.
I love that Courtney is watching the stream right now
She is?
and just commented, physicist.
Yes.
physicist.
She did.
What? My wife is watching me on this
Yes.
stream right now.
She
Oh,
said
you didn't know that?
physicist.
Behave.
Adorable.
You told her you went to the market or something?
I
No,
love that.
yeah, right. So, and some people were commenting, like, I know I'm preaching to the choir. I know you guys get it, but it's just so frustrating to have these conversations with people. Like, they don't get it to such a degree that they don't even know how profoundly wrong that they sound. And then when you offer, some insight or information, they double down on their idiocy. I don't
Are
know
you
how else
talking
to
about
put
the
it.
scientists, or are you talking about like people defending these kinds of
People
things online?
defending, just unfounded claims and just misinformation about COVID alone. That's a career all on its own to try to get some worthwhile information. Like I was talking to this guy, he was like saying all of the information that we have on how many people have died by COVID is muddied. It's muddied. We don't really know what the truth is. I'm like, that's incorrect. We absolutely do know what the truth is. I mean, if you just look at how many more people have died on average this year in countries that had COVID spikes, you'll see an increase in deaths over the last 3-4 years.
Well, in the U.S., like 95 or something like that % of the official deaths from COVID are laboratory confirmed.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not like, there's no wiggle room.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't believe any of that. It's all
Yeah, I know.
it's all anything that contradicts what they want, they just dismiss as fake news. Fake news, my God, it's such a magic wand of nope,
Yeah.
fake news. And I am so tired of that. I'm so sick of it.
Yeah,
It's
the distrust
scary.
of institutions is a real problem. It's gotten to be a worse problem over the last few decades that
Well,
we've been
and-
doing this.
and
It's getting worse.
It's getting
That's
worse.
because there's been a concerted effort to undermine them. I do personally think that these big paradigmatic shifts, like where a lot of people within the culture and society are thinking along a certain line, they happen because there's a concerted effort. And I personally believe that if we were living through a different administration with different people in our ears all of the time, that it wouldn't be as pernicious as it is right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that the Trump administration has actually done a brilliant job of undermining public trust in institutions, in the media, and in scientists and medical professionals.
It didn't take much, Kara. That's the scary part.
Of
It
course,
really
Well, 'cause it
didn't
didn't
take
start with
much.
tenuous
Trump.
anyway.
He
But it's
benefited
not
from
like
it, and he
everybody was thinking this
exacerbated
way
it.
on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was guided.
I mean, like to think that they're blaming scientists for the lockdown and the lockdown is wrong, and like it's scientists' fault somehow. Like just because scientists are saying, listen, ideally we need to do X, and X will change with more information, but X has been pretty consistent the last 4 or 5 months. Everybody knows the list. I don't want to say it again, but for people to get angry at scientists and then think that scientists are making up information for whatever like science's goals are, like to me that is so it's such a fork to the face to me. I can't stand it. Go ahead.
The frustrating thing, Jay, is that like there's always been distrust in institutions, right? But usually those are fringe groups that are pushing forward that propaganda.
Mhm.
And when it comes to shove, individuals in positions of true authority and true kind of power have historically had a long-standing tradition of promoting, whether we had political differences, promoting verifiable truth.
Yes.
Places where you've seen collective undermining from government officials have been in like strongman situations where that's been a goal, a specific choice to make to undermine trust in democracy altogether so that they can try and collapse some of those institutions. And so the really frustrating thing in the world that we're living in right now is that you put yourself in the shoes of a person who has historically always thought that the office of the president or Congress or the Senate, for example, these are individuals that we should always trust because they're individuals that, have a certain type of responsibility to the public. Like my father, for example, his religion teaches him that no matter who is in office, you're supposed to respect them pretty much unconditionally. And this is a core value of his.
That's dangerous. That's very dangerous.
Well,
It's
yeah,
super dangerous,
it's-
but historically, it didn't. Of course, blind trust is always dangerous, but historically, there's been, as we've talked about, this sort of gentleman's, gentlewoman's agreement that, like, when you're in a true position of power, that you have just as much responsibility to do right by your constituents, and that's gone out the window in the last 4 years.
Oh, I
in
know.
a
I mean,
really dangerous way.
You know, we have so few senators that put the time and energy to be fully prepared to talk to anyone that sits in front of the Senate. You know, when you see someone do a good job, it's like mind blowing. You know, you're like, oh my God, they actually are prepared. They know what they're talking about. They did research. You know, you get a lot of them are just taking pot shots. You know, pulling points out of their butt when. You have these big, all the social media owners come in and sit down before you, have your people do the research, at least feed you the things to say and questions to ask. I mean, if you're too lazy to do it yourself, we can't even get that out of them. The questions that they ask are so idiotic.
Yeah, but that's orchestrated.
Right, their ideology of trumps the science or whatever else it is that they, first of all, don't really understand. And
So
have
guys,
deep
next week at
interest
this
in.
time when we're doing our next Friday's live show, election will be over. We probably will know who won. It kind of depends
Maybe.
on how it goes.
Yeah.
By Friday, we might. I really doubt we will on election
It
night.
depends.
By 10
They're going to
p.m.
let Pennsylvania
you know.
count 9 days after.
Yeah.
9.
If Biden takes
What
Florida,
if it
we'll know
comes
Tuesday
down to
night.
Pennsylvania?
Oh yeah, Biden takes
What if it
Florida,
comes
we'll
down
know.
to Pennsylvania? You're
I
not
don't
going to know
think-
for weeks.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. I don't
Hopefully
think
it
it's going to
won't.
be like
Maybe
Bush
it won't.
4.
But if it
It's
does,
not going to be a single state.
Yeah, and that's going to be bad because that's where Trump gets to play dirty. The longer it takes, the more time that happens between, the election day and knowing the number, that's when all the lawsuits are going to happen.
Yeah, the
That's
more
when-
there's a legal argument.
But that's when I think more and more violence will happen, the less we know, or the longer it takes to know what's going on, which
the longer
is
it
bad.
goes, the worse it will be.
The hope is
Yeah,
that
agree with
the delegates come in, like we get the electors, that the electors get across the threshold quickly.
Yeah.
We'll hopefully.
That's,
fingers crossed. Can a skeptic cross their fingers? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Is that
As a
verboten?
symbolic
Is that
gesture.
verboten?
The other thing that Trump will do is he will claim victory, very early.
Of course.
way too early. That's
He's
all
already
expected.
claimed victory.
I know.
Is
That's
the
true.
victor?
And he will fight even a pretty clear landslide, but he won't have much legal standing.
Right.
Right.
So the
That's
hope
right.
is that, just the numbers are far enough apart. There's a big enough point spread. The unfortunate thing is that a lot of more progressive people are the people who vote early. So the numbers may look really good for Biden early on, and then they may slowly shift towards Trump.
There's never been a year like this, so we got nothing to compare this year to. Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's
Nothing.
insanity. It's insanity. I just really hope that people make the right choice here and that we can move forward, because America, nothing says
gonna
that
move
every
forward.
country has to last
Either
forever.
way.
I mean, America would be a very hard country to topple, but it is very possible.
I don't think so.
Well, we have a
Rome
very
toppled.
strong economy and there's a lot of momentum, but it's not, people just 10 years ago, people would think it's absurd that, our country could have something like this happen. It's happening. So
It's amazing how much a single human being can pull at those threads with the right, and it's not just because he happened to come in. I mean, so many different things coordinated, and he was able to tap into the McConnell interest. He was able, as this sort of semi puppet, but also semi autonomous actor, to pull a lot of these threads and really put us into a constitutional crisis. And it's just incredible how much a single human being could do that, because we wouldn't be in this state if Mitt Romney had been the nominee, would we? Even
But
if
he also
had
carried-
won. If Ted Cruz, if Marco Rubio, if any of these people were our presidents, we would not be in the state. We would just be kind of rehashing Bush years, I think.
But it took a lot of people to prop Trump up as epically as he's been propped up, right? If he didn't have the Senate basically agreeing with him. I mean, I just love how you go back to 2015 and you could see multiple people from Trump's Senate talking horrible smack about him.
Oh, basically every person.
Yeah. Then they all changed their mind I'd love to see them try to pivot away from their Trump years. If Trump loses, I'd love to see how they're going to try to pivot away from him.
Some of them are already starting to do it. Already starting to, to play the whole "I never liked him" game or whatever.
Yeah. But Steve and I have said, we've talked about this several times because we just keep repeating ourselves. I'm sure I've said this on the show before. But imagine if Trump actually had real charisma and intelligence. He's got the malfeasance, but if he had like powerful charisma and just even above average intelligence.
Imagine if he was attractive.
Yeah.
Something as simple as being attractive and being a good orator.
Yep.
Yeah, well, it's true that he is an incompetent authoritarian, and it does make me worry what a competent authoritarian could do in this country if they have a populist movement behind them and a completely prostrate party behind them. I mean, the Republican Party's platform this year was whatever Trump wants.
Yeah,
that was it. I mean,
let's do what we did again. Yeah, it's like, you can't just string some new words together.
Politicians will gamble as to what the easiest path to victory is, and whatever it takes, that's what they will do.
But typically,
it's not that
typically there has been a floor of decency. I mean, who was it? Somebody wrote this article. I'm stealing it.
Illusion of.
I think it was David Brooks, and that is gone now. The
illusion
decency floor. No, there always was. At least there were certain things politicians wouldn't do.
I agree. Historically,
that's
different.
Really
maybe not publicly, but they do all kinds of things that we'd never know about, never learn about.
Public, like what they will, how brazenly they will lie in public.
They live on lies. That's their stock and trade.
Evan, you are creating a false
there are a lot of
equivalency.
moral
Evan.
politicians.
But not all of them. I mean, it's not like all of these people are carbon cutouts. I mean, Trump is clearly the breadwinner when it comes to a bullshit artist. Like, the guy will lie on a dime.
Obama had a moral compass. Like, I'm sorry, whether you think that he was like a crooked politician or not, I completely disagree with that. I think he was a good human being who made mistakes and was faced with tough difficulties, but he made moral decisions. Moral decisions.
Well, listen, the thing is, Evan, the problem with what you're saying is that it's a false equivalency, which is completely whitewashing over very real differences. Yes, all politicians play politics, almost by definition. You have to in order to survive, especially like on a national stage. But that's not the same thing as lying to the degree, for example, that Trump lies, or the brazenness of the lies.
So some lies are okay and others aren't.
I just
Evan,
think
that's a straw man, Evan. That is a blatant straw man. That's not what I'm saying. But it's like saying that, if two things are wrong, they're equally wrong. Or you're saying that it's okay to be a little wrong. No, saying the earth is round is wrong. Saying the earth is flat is way more wrong, like on an order of magnitude.
Sure.
And it's the same thing.
There are degrees.
It's the same thing.
No doubt about it.
When a politician chooses to spin, the statistics in a way that's favorable to them, there's some deception in there. But when politicians just totally make shit up that have been already been debunked multiple times, and will promote foreign disinformation campaigns against their opponents. I mean, that's a completely different level than spinning some statistics in a deceptive way. You can't say that doesn't justify the mild deception, right? Doesn't justify the mild deception, but it doesn't mean though that it's all equivalent. All politicians equally lie. That's bullshit. That is complete bullshit.
I didn't say they all equally lie.
There's an order of magnitude difference between what we are currently getting, over these last 4 years, than the typical level of lying that is inherent in politics.
My guess, and I haven't done this research, I don't know who has done this research. If you go back and you take a whole bunch of presidents, take a whole bunch of senators for decades, go back and see what they campaigned on versus other things that they said while in office, whether they won that victory. And I think you'll find that to me, it doesn't feel like there's that wide of the order of magnitude that you're describing. Yeah, sure. Are there differences? Sure. Yeah, but that's how they get in. That's the job application.
But don't you think saying
being able to promise
once I get elected,
being able to promise people things is the way in.
I know,
Of course
but
it is, Evan, but they ultimately can't control things that are going to get cockblocked by
Say that.
Congress.
Yeah,
Right. And I will
That's different than
refreshingly
lying.
embrace the politician
Yeah, I mean, the
that
Senate.
that's
The Senate. It's not like when
that
Obama was in
that
office. for 8
acknowledges
years.
these limitations and tells people really how the system works. They
I also don't
it.
think this is as much about lying as it is about motivation, like narcissistic what's the word I'm looking for?
Congratulatory.
Fulfilling? No, like doing things for personal gain, right? You're right to say that all politicians make decisions for personal gain. That's what lobbying is.
Well, personal gain,
Promises,
achieving office is
favors,
what I mean. I'm not accusing
trading.
anyone of, taking money or anything, but
They do all the time. That's what lobbying is. But
well,
there's a big difference between
illegally
somebody
taking
who
money.
will say, this gives me a personal edge, so I'm willing to harm other people, and somebody who says, this gives me a personal edge, and in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's that painful for others. And I do think that morally, that's the calculus going on in a lot of politicians' minds. And for people, there's always a line in the sand. And that line might be here, it might be here. But for Trump, that line is through the floor.
Doesn't
And that's
exist.
what's so dangerous. I do think that historically, a lot of politicians' lines were in a moral place. So they're willing to go up to a certain place, and then they would say, that's beyond the pale. The decision that I'm going to make here has to serve the voters.
Well, I think
Trump doesn't give a shit about us.
I think that's the impression, and I think that's, to me, part of that illusion. But again, this is my opinion. I just don't think this. I don't think there's those quantities of sincerity, frankly, behind either their intentions or what it is actually that they're saying. And I think they will say and do a lot of things that we never ever even maybe know about.
But
in
that's
order
why I
in
think
order
that
to
there's
see a certain result.
Yeah.
But that's why I think there's a fundamental difference, and I'll say it, and you guys can do what you want with this, between progressive politics and conservative politics. Because I think progressivism is seated in a want to do better for the people, and conservatism isn't. I feel strongly about that.
Well, I think that may be true, with, more recently, Kara. That's not true ideologically with conservatism. I have to disagree with you.
Conservatism ideologically can only be measured by what it is now.
But just
We
saying,
can't talk about what it was like 40 years ago.
But you're wrong, Kara, because what we have now, I would argue, is not conservatism.
Yeah.
The Republican
with
Yeah, but
that.
if
Party.
you,
Right.
as a conservative
not what
person,
I identify with.
choose to align and vote that direction, then you're throwing yourself in with that lot.
Oh,
Yeah, of
totally,
course.
totally. Listen,
Because we have
Kara,
a binary system.
It's the
and
difference
we
between
kind
being. You're talking
we're
about
forced.
Republicans, not conservatives. So the Republican Party today is now a populist, nationalist, white grievance party under Trump. That's what it is. It's no longer a conservative party. It is not a party of free trade. Free trade's out the window with Trump.
or fiscal responsibility.
Fiscal responsibility.
Forget that. Gone.
Out.
These
Small
aren't
government,
moral
gone.
issues.
It's
I'm
all
talking
gone.
about the social, moral parts of the platform. And I'm sorry, conservatism has always been the party of let's not change things. Let's maintain
Well, sure, that's
populism. Let's
the
maintain
definition
white
of
male
conservative.
power. I'm sorry, Steve, you're wrong. I
About
think
what?
progressivism has always been about trying to give more power to the little person, trying to remove income inequality. Progressivism has always been the ideology of affirmative action. It's always been the ideology of anti-racism.
Well,
And I'm sorry, I'm not saying that conservatives have always been Klan members, but Klan members were always conservative. And that's something we have to remember. I don't think it's fair to ignore that and to try to put a happy spin on history.
I'm not trying to do that at all. You're missing what I'm saying. So part of what you're arguing, I would say, Kara, is a sort of a circular argument because you are choosing to define good by progressive values, and therefore progressive values are more good.
Disagree.
I'm just saying that ideologically there are conservatives who can honestly believe in their philosophy, their ideology, think that they're the good people, and they just focus on different priorities. They would say things like liberty and freedom are also important. Individualism is also important, and if you choose those as your markers of being moral and being good, then they would think they have it. I'm not taking a position on what is objectively better, progressivism or conservatism.
I'm trying to take that position.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that don't don't confuse what currently passes for the Republican Party as conservative ideology.
I'm
because
not.
it
I'm
isn't.
thinking about 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when we still saw active efforts to disallow gay rights, active efforts to squash women's rights, active efforts to minimize minority rights. These have always been conservative efforts. Disenfranchisement of voters have always been conservative efforts.
And
So
a lot of
I'll-
people who are conservatives go to Barry Goldwater sort of as the modern conservative example.
I mean, I agree with
So-
that, Kara. But the thing is, that there's the part of the problem is that conservatism is many things, and
It is absolutely, but
Yeah.
I'm specifically talking
if you're
about
focusing on
social
social
conservatism right now.
yeah, that's because the social conservatives were taken over by the religious right. You know, and
Yeah,
you're not
Chris-
Well,
gonna-
yeah,
social
it's dominated
conservatism
by
has
the
always
Christians.
been the formula for trying to motivate voters, right? Historically, I do think that a lot of conservatives in office may not even agree with some of these hard line, third rail conservative,
Right.
social conservative issues, but they know that if they pull them up in their stump speeches, that's how they're going to motivate voters. So in terms of a platform, not so much in terms of like
Yeah.
the personal ideology of a politician, but in terms of like a platform of a voter, it's always been the social issues that have been more motivating.
Yeah, I agree with you. But again, and you're saying going back 10, 20 years, that's already after the conservative side of American politics was soiled, in my opinion, by like the culture war. That was post Reagan. That you're already into the culture war. You have to go back even far. I mean, the thing is, during
before
that
Nixon.
during that era, though, there were at least, again, there's like the Republican Party is 5 parties, in all honesty.
But that's why I'm not using the word Republican.
No,
That's
I
why I'm
agree,
using the word
but they're
conservative.
they're not all conservative either. Even that term doesn't cut it. So you have to break it up at least into, yes, there are social conservatives, and I think everything you're saying is correct about social conservatives. I think, versus economic conservatives or people who value liberty and justice over egalitarianism. I think they're on equal moral playing field. And then isolationists versus, whatever. There's all the, libertarians. There's different ways you can get, the colonialists, whatever. There's different things. But, and again, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with that. I just think we have to resist the temptation to combine too many things into one.
But
And
we
it's-
can't resist it because that's the reality. The reality
Well, the
is
reality is we have a
two-party system in our
two-party
country.
system. We have a two-party system. I agree.
Yeah, we're hemmed in by these rules of a two-party.
But you were saying
election
progressivism.
system.
You were saying progressivism, and I said yes, and again, I agree with a lot of progressivism, but that's not inherently, I think, more moral than subsets of philosophies that are on the right. If you talk about like libertarianism, they have a point. I think they have a point. Not of course, not the all the religious stuff like being homophobic or not, and certainly not the white grievance stuff or any of that. Obviously, I agree with you on all of those things. But I just don't want to be too simplistic that way.
I don't think I'm being
either.
simplistic here.
Yeah.
I think honestly, I'm looking at a lot of data, a lot of historical
Yeah.
and modern data, and I'm trying to match ideology with actual, practicality. And when I'm doing so, what I see in front of me is that there's one party that gives a shit, and there's one party that wants to keep things the way they were.
Yeah,
And
that's
it
true. Again, you're talking
it
parties
frustrates
now.
me so much.
Yeah.
When we try to form a false equivalence between the two, historically or in terms of like our modern circumstance, because, I think historically we were able to, and this goes back to what we were just talking about and arguing about, Adam, Evan, and
Same difference.
Savage over
Jay,
there.
that there was a time when there was a certain level of decorum and a
Yes.
certain level of respect that was
Absolutely.
present, and there was actually a goal of bipartisan work,
Mm-hmm.
and that has gone so far out the window.
I
Oh,
agree.
it's gone.
So far.
It's gone.
Totally
It's worse
agree.
than gone, Kara. They hate each other. Our
Yeah, but it's
government
not-
There was a
is
schism.
opposition.
It
But
was
even there, I think that's a
political
false
class
equivalence, because
schism.
You see time and time again progressive lawmakers trying to do something bipartisan and being fucked over by conservative
Yeah,
lawmakers.
I agree with that.
And it's
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah.
It's like they want to play the high game and they get fucked by it. And
I-
that
listen,
really
I don't know why they
difficult
can't
to
find the
watch.
things that they can
Right.
agree on and work
Yeah,
on those
I
first
agree with
and
you.
build
Steve,
Steve,
from
close
there.
us down on this because we got to go to the quiz. I don't
All
want
right.
to.
Right.
Oh, we have a quiz?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let me.
It's a killer quiz.
I've been storing up things to say a little bit in response to everything. So let me just say a couple of things.
There we go.
So, Kara, you know that you and I agree on most of this stuff. What I'm saying is, it's, you know, I think this may be partly generational because you grow up post-Reagan, and post-Reagan conservatism and the Republican Party has been on a steady decline to shitville, which is where we are now, it's because they made politics into a culture war. They made it into you're good or you're evil. The other side is actually evil, and this was by design. And you know, I've since then I've basically been partyless because neither party really, you know, in my opinion, you know, takes
No party for me.
Yeah, it takes a critical, evidence-based, sort of ideologically neutral approach to all issues. But I think when it comes to like social issues, yeah, the progressives have it all over, you know, the religious right, no question. Economic
We're on the
issues,
right side of history.
yeah, totally. Economic issues, I think it's kind of balanced. Foreign issues, I think both parties suck, to be honest with you. How about an intelligent foreign policy, whatever that would look like? But in the last 10, 20 years, because of right-wing radio, Fox News, the Republican Party has become the party of conspiracy theories, of gaslighting, of this alternate reality. Although people talk about the Fox News cinematic universe, which I think is a fantastic way to put it. It really is this alternate reality that they're the party of anti-science, right? They're, you know, and it's that is now what the Republican Party is, and conservatism has been left out in the dust. They kind of were pretending to be able to have an alliance on the right there, but there is no center-right. There's no center-right party in this country. I do think there needs to be a center-right party in this country.
Yes,
Third party.
definitely it's coming.
Third
And
party.
there needs to be, I think, an even more progressive
Or it may
left
just be that the
party.
Democratic Party
Fourth party.
is the party with progressive wing and the center left wing, and that's as close as you're going to get.
And the quiz is going to begin right now.
But wait, Jay.
Our audience is literally telling us go to the quiz. We got it.
No, they're not. Our audience
They
is
are. I'm
into
reading
this. What are
everything
you
that everybody's
talking
saying.
Let Kara say what
Well-
she wants to say, and then we'll go to the quiz.
The one thing I'll say, and to me, this is just sort of like a reality check for everyone here, is that like, I'm 37 years old. I'm young, but I'm not a child by any stretch. I'm a working professional. And so when we talk about 10, 20 years, honestly, we're talking more like since the 60s. We're talking since the Southern Strategy. We're talking since the Fairness Doctrine.
Yeah,
so this
absolutely.
is not like a new thing. And I think we need to realize that the world I live in and the world I grew up in is the world today.
I agree.
And there
I
is
totally
no
agree.
pre-1960 in terms of politics. We're not going to get back there. I'm, you know, a fully functional adult in the world today. And there are many other people in my age bracket who have only ever seen this world. And we have to get used to the fact that this is how it is.
But I agree with you. But part of where I'm coming from, this will be the last word on it, is we do need to get to a place where we are no longer looking at the other side as the enemy, the evil enemy.
Of course, I
absolutely agree.
That's really hard when one side is playing hardball, and it's really because it's very asymmetrical. I agree, it's totally asymmetrical. It's really hard, but we have to almost say, all right, guys, if you want to be a functional, party that plays fair, this is what you got to do, and we'll sort of give you
you got to play the game,
a pathway back to reality, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. And just saying things like conservatives are necessarily all these bad things is kind of counterproductive. It may turn out to be true, but at least I have to hope that there's a pathway to some kind of a two-party system that functions.
Yep.
Maybe that pathway
crossed.
entails the death of the Republican Party. It might.
I think it will.
It might have to burn to the ground before something takes its place. But those people won't go away. The party may burn down, but those people won't go away. So where do they find a home?
A lot of those people are dying.
That's going to be productive.
Kara, I don't know, Steve. We could vote the fuckers out. Now,
Well, that's short term.
Well, there's
we have
always
to do that.
that's always your
have
I would
to
like
do
to
that.
formally
All right,
let's
go on to
this
the quiz.
podcast to the quiz
Let's
because
go on
I
to the
love
quiz.
everybody here. And how dare you spoil pre-Halloween vibes by getting serious?
Last word, all politicians are murderers. Next.
Okay, there we go.
That's
All right,
where
so
Pizzagate.
Ian
Wait,
is
what?
initiating the quiz. Please join the quiz. Ian has sent it out in the chat. Ian, can you please tell everyone what that link is?
Oh, yes. The link is darkenergy.games.
Oh
Ian, can you chat us our link?
There's a special link in the Zoom, too.
It
Oh,
is
thank you.
special.
The
He's
secret
special
link.
for us.
So special.
Darkenergy.games. You can also watch the stream there. There's a YouTube video, so please watch that. There.
All right, so
All right. Maybe I'll do better than last week or whenever we last played. I got 0.
while we're waiting,
I had one of those.
I just want to tell everyone the most important thing I think you guys said is that after this election, we have to rebuild
Yeah.
trust and respect and rebuild the ability to talk to each other. So even the people that are on whatever side you're on, the people that are on that other side, we have to talk to them at some point.
No,
in
they
some
have to
capacity.
talk to us.
Yes,
Speak
it
the
goes both
truth.
ways, but it's somebody has to start reaching their hand first, and I'm
We
gonna
are.
Truth
pick
will
us.
out.
And again, we are about to hit some hard times in our country. We have to take care of each other and ourselves. So prepare yourself. It's going to be really fucking bad. The next few months are going to be bad.
But if you haven't voted yet, vote. Get your
Oh
ass
yeah,
out
and don't
vote.
mail your ballot in.
It's too late.
Go to
Yeah,
a
it's too
box.
late. It's too late.
Yeah,
You
it's
gotta-
too late to put
You
it
got
in
to
the mail.
drop it off, or you got to vote in person.
Too late, baby.
Now it's too
Too
late. All right,
late.
Ian, let's do this.
Please. Thank you. Okay, here we go. The synchronize button all together.
Okay.
As I count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Click.
0 seconds, Kara.
When I nod my head, you hit
You
it.
hit it.
Well, you know what? What's frustrating is hearing the two of you guys talk. I agree with both of you completely, which is very weird because I'm
I like that though. That's like the nuance. That's
Yeah,
a good
there
There's
is
a
thing.
lot of nuance
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
All right, so we got the quiz. Here's the quiz. Ian's going to start it when he feels like enough people have joined. Right now, I will tell you guys that somewhere in Connecticut, Bob is standing outside in 30-degree temperature, 30 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's very cold. It's below freezing. He is probably wearing a costume and enjoying himself in a more than you want to admit.
In a way we will never know.
Yeah, we'll never understand.
Listen,
I
must
told
receive
Bob, I said,
frostbite.
this was like an unbelievable premise, what I said to Bob. But 2 days ago, I was talking to Bob and I go, hey, Bob, I feel bad because, like, man, Halloween just flat out doesn't exist for me this year. I don't feel Halloween at all.
You don't feel
There's nothing
Halloween-y?
going on in my life that's Halloween.
Nothing's
Even my
Halloween-y.
kids are like, well, no trick-or-treating this year. Like, they're not even like pretending that there's going to be any semblance of trick-or-treating.
Ooh, when I was their age, that's all there was all year was trick or treating.
I know, but Ev, they're savvy enough to know that they're just not going to get it. There is no
No.
going door to door.
I know, robbing them of their innocence and their.
This was Bob's reaction. Bob
memories.
goes something like this. He goes, "What? Wow! Like, what do you mean? Like, oh, Jay, I mean, let me help you." I'm like, "Help what?
Let me help you.
Help what?" I know, like,
There's-
start laughing at him.
There's people who can help.
Yeah.
Call this number.
Bob is
So
still
anyway-
waiting for the great pumpkin.
Yeah, he is. He is so Linus in the pumpkin patch.
Oh, without a doubt,
Oh my
man.
gosh. That is
And Bob
exactly-
holds on to Halloween like with bitter hands at the after like November 1st, November 2nd, and he's still holding on to Halloween.
You can see the claw marks
Yeah.
from Bob on
You could
November
cry
1st.
Halloween from my cold undead hands.
All right, Ian, take it away.
If for anybody that
Oh God.
too far behind or whatever, just follow the screen along. It won't be synced with the live phone.
Just follow the bouncing ball. Who's old enough to remember that reference?
Not me. Sorry.
Mission. No, that's a. There's definitely a strata
go.
there.
Here we go. Where's the term jack-o'-lantern come from? An Irish.
Oh
folk-
no, these are
Turn
Halloween
yourself up, Ian.
questions?
Oh, am I not loud enough? I'll just say louder things.
Yeah, we can't hear you at all, Ian.
About a cheap man named Stingy Jack who made a deal with the devil. Fable about the Jack of Blades who used his mask to take over host bodies and live forever. A dancing Jack, which is a body that moves after death. A dog named Jack that jumped out of a pumpkin when it was vulnerable.
Ian, turn yourself up some more.
No, I don't. I can't. I don't have any headroom.
Damn,
it's-
I missed it.
My D4 roll failed.
It's an Irish folktale about a cheap man named Stingy Jack, and I made up all the other ones.
Jay,
Sounds
maybe
like-
you should
that
read
sounds
them
the
'cause you're
most-
louder.
That sounds the most
What?
made up.
Maybe you should read them out loud because you're louder than
If
Ian.
Ian can't do it, I'll do it.
Boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom. Is
The
that me?
second one, a fable, that one I borrowed that from the game Fable. A little bit.
Aw,
Just a little bit.
I got the dancing Jack. That was a good one.
All right, here's the next one.
You don't know Dancing Jack.
What was candy corn originally called? Orange Crags, Teeth of the Dead, Goat Hooves, or Chicken Feed?
I don't care which one's right. That's damn funny.
I made up all the other ones for you.
God, this is hard. And now you can change your vote.
I know, it makes it even worse.
I kind of just want to click them all randomly until the time stops.
Hey,
Feed. They were
I
called
guessed
Chicken
correctly.
Feed.
Oh, man. I came off of that one.
Got that one.
I like Orange Crags.
Orange
That's the
Crags.
one I picked.
Yeah, I like that
Good
one.
job, Jay.
Got- They're called Joe Rogans.
It turns Joe Rogan. It turns out there's a lot of interesting history, and I'm live streaming, honey. I'll see you later. my daughter's screaming under the door. They don't leave me alone. Why do people start dressing up in Halloween costumes? To pay homage to war heroes who died in battle, to repel spirits that they believed came from back to Earth, to hide their identities as they committed acts of havoc or pranks, to become possessed with a friendly spirit that would bring good fortune.
Now this one I think I know. We'll see if I'm right.
This
Because I
one
have
shows
I
that
have
no
a
faith
I
in
have a
humanity.
memory of reading this in my head. See if it held true, and it did.
Yeah, that was the easiest one so far, actually. I thought
Damn
that's-
it. Well, I guess I just really suck today.
Kara, it's all right. You don't know. You're just not a Halloween.
Kara, these things happened before
Yeah,
you were born. So.
they're trying to scare away the spirits that
I
come
thought they
back.
were hiding their identities because they're all horrible.
A real horror show.
Real horror show.
Candy corn.
After doing some research on Halloween, I found out that Halloween is it's really
It's a complicated
very spread out.
holiday.
It's
Yeah.
it's around the world. So when is Halloween thought to have originated? The 1400s, 1600s, 1870s, or 2,000 years ago?
When Bob said, hey, let's have Halloween.
I mean, Halloween in its current form, or
Yeah.
Just Halloween. I don't know.
I'll say this because it was around the witching times. Oops, I'm giving away a clue.
Oops.
Oh, I was wrong.
Yeah, 2,000 years ago.
Oh,
An
wow.
old Celtic situation.
Wow, I didn't think it was that far back. Okay.
Wow.
Yep. It's part of human history, man.
It's in Bob's DNA, that's for sure.
And here is the next question, and I believe this is the last question. Will Kara guess correctly?
Probably not, because I've got 0% so far.
Let's see.
Well, then
Going
your
nil.
odds are.
What is the most commercially successful horror movie of all time? The Exorcist, Psycho, It, or A Nightmare on Elm Street?
Ugh.
The Exorcist,
Commercially
It,
successful.
or A Nightmare on Elm Street?
So that's box office plus rentals, probably.
Yeah, which
Plus
one just
du-
made the most money?
Plus dolls, action figures. I'll say that one.
I think.
No, I didn't guess.
No.
No.
It?
Yeah, I
just
did-
went for
Are you
that.
serious?
Is that
was
because of
hard.
is that because of the re-release of the franchise? It must be.
I thought that was your distractor. The other three I was picking between.
Yeah, that's why I picked those, because those are the ones I thought people would gravitate towards. Yeah, the movie, I didn't even really like the original movie that
Wasn't
much.
it a television series first?
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Well, it was
like
a
a-
book, and then
Well, sure, it was a book, but the video aired on TV first as like a mini series.
So what did you guys get? How many, did you get anything correct?
2 out of 5.
I got two.
All right, that's
Yeah.
fine. Who cares?
None out of 5.
It only goes on your permanent record. Your
Yeah.
next job
Yes.
application, they'll be there. Okay.
Hey,
I
Kara.
see you got 2 out of 5.
Yes, sir.
Kara, don't be
How
sad. The
dare you, Kara.
Mandalorian season 2 starts tonight.
I heard
Oh.
that. I heard
Yes.
that. Oh.
I'll be watching
I just
that
finished the
episode many
Queen's
times.
Gambit and I loved it.
I watched the Queen's Gambit too because I love chess. I watch anything chess. I love
and
chess.
wasn't it
Chess,
so
chess,
good?
chess. Yeah, it was excellent. It's a
All right,
fiction.
here we go. So,
but but it's great. Really nice work.
SGU got
Yeah.
40% due to maybe
Kara
one person
really
getting
dragged
no
us down.
questions correct. We have a lot of 80%ers up there at the top. Good
Nice.
job, guys.
No,
Let's see
100%.
Yeah, there was no one person that did the best. Let's go down to the bottom of the list. Looks
Ooh,
like
wow, I'm bad at this.
2 countries like entered the quiz and didn't even answer any questions. France got 1 question correct. Japan got 1 question correct.
The last 2 were the tricky questions, Jay.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, people. That was rough for people.
So good job this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed the Halloween themed quiz.
Absolutely.
I will not be discussing Halloween until a year from now.
It's all right. Bob will take up the slack.
No, and there is no Evan puzzle this week.
No, just, I'm in costume mode this week. Next week, puzzle next week. I'll get back to puzzles, promise.
Should we take 1 or 2 questions?
Yeah, it's 6:18, so we'll have time for a couple of questions. What do you got, Ian?
You can hear me now, or is it?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sure.
First question for the Rogues. As a reward for once you get to 5,000 patrons, will one of you shave your head?
No.
Okay.
One of us is going to shave one of the other person's heads.
What are you doing?
And they won't know it until they wake up.
Well, I can't do it.
Hello there.
Hey,
Happy Halloween. Olivia.
Hey,
I
Pumpkin.
didn't see you.
Why is
So, all right, if it really matters to anyone, if enough people show enthusiasm, I would shave my head at 5,000. Who cares? I'll shave my head.
I can't do it because of work.
Yeah. Well, it's actually, Steve, as my boss, do you care if I shave my head?
No.
Okay. All right, go downstairs. I'll be right
All
there.
right, so if we hit 5,000, Jay will shave his head. We're at 4,300.
That's a terrible goal. You should raise that goal.
Yeah.
So someone asked 5,000 what? That 5,000 patrons on Patreon.
Courtney.
Hi, Courtney. Happy Halloween.
We're up to 4,300. And so at 4,000, we're doing our 12-hour show. That'll be January 23rd, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., a 12-hour live streaming SGU event. And then at 4,500, we complete our upgrades of our microphones. And at 5,000, it's the 24-hour, right?
Yes.
Just 5,000.
That's what I was told.
24-hour.
Or Jay shaves his head.
And Jay shaves his head as a bonus.
Okay. Next question.
I'm horrified about what my head's going to look like.
Well, you're going to go high and tight, or you're going to go George Robb?
I'd do a George Robb.
Maybe he'll do it. He can show you all his. He can show you his technique.
Yeah, maybe
what
he
to
would
do,
shave
what
my
not
head.
to
Yeah, that'd
do.
be fun.
Yeah.
Somebody just said, "Don't do it, Jay." I'll think about it. I got to talk to my wife, but I mean, whatever.
Jay, do you have a weird shaped head?
How about you shave your eyebrows?
I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
No, you'd have to feel. Do you have like divots or bumps?
Oh
or
no,
anything?
I don't. I have.
Yeah. What does your phrenologist tell you? Is that okay?
I have a really flat spot in the back of my head, like a dip right here.
It's not uncommon.
So I think I would look weird with a shaved head. But I
All right,
don't know.
next
I'd probably
question.
do it too at some point.
This question comes from
Do it
Discord.
with me, Kara.
I have
am
to
a
wait till
father-
summer.
This comes from Discord. I am a father of a little girl with ASD. As such, been hearing of the trials and even treatments of autism by using umbilical cord blood cells of the patient or siblings. They don't claim a full recovery or anything, but even a significant improvement is something many parents would jump on. How seriously can such treatments be taken?
Specifically cord blood, I have not looked at that, so I don't know if there's any. I've never seen that claim specifically. I'd be very skeptical of it because there's so much, pseudoscience out there for autism. But I'd have to take a specific look at that just to see if there's anything there. And what are they talking about? Like cord blood used how? Autism is
Yeah, this
pretty
seems
much
like
there
something
at
you would meet
birth.
from the
So
beginning.
anything like after birth is, not going to be a cure. So we'll see. So I wish I had a better answer, but I'd have to look into that more specifically to get into the details.
All right, next question.
Next question is, what is the science on air purifiers? What should you look out for when shopping for one?
So air purifiers
talked about this.
for what? Yeah. So they're fine if your goal is to remove some, fine particulate matter from a closed indoor space. You have to match the throughput. They're rated by like the volume of air that they clear per hour. So you have to decide, how that fits to the space that you're trying to keep clear. They're not going to keep you from getting sick. They generally are not going to be clearing viruses from the air fast enough to really do that. But if you have asthma, it could be useful. If you have for some reason, have a particularly bad environment, if you like live in a very cold climate where you have to keep your windows closed almost most of the year, a lot of stuff does build up inside. Yeah, so having an air
indoor air
purifier
pollution
with a
is
good HEPA
usually
filter is
worse
good.
than outdoor air pollution.
Yeah.
So yeah, you should open your windows a lot. But like I live in Los Angeles, the fires have been brutal. The outdoor air quality is unhealthy.
Yeah.
So I use an air purifier for sure. But I think what the biggest thing that I've, in doing my research that you need to look for is just a good HEPA filter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
really
did
all
some
that matters.
research and I bought the Winix, WINIX. It's supposed to be very good. You have to keep in mind the replacement filters could be very costly. So look up the cost to replace the filters and how often you got to do it. That'll help you figure out like what your running costs will be. But
Right.
the
I have
new
a
ones
Dyson
work
fan,
great.
mostly because I like the way they look, and it's a fan too. So it's like dual purpose. But there's a lot of different options for HEPA filters. And they're
So
all
if I
pretty much the same.
if I do shave my head, I'm gonna. What I decided just now, what I would do is I would go through multiple versions of a haircut, right? So I do. What do you call that? Is a Skrillex when you shave just one side of your head?
Well, Skrillex had that, but yeah, I
And
love
then
that look.
Somebody
I
said
kind
a
of wanted
mohawk.
to do it.
Yeah, that would look really cool on you, Kara.
But
So I would go. I would
done
do
are, like,
that,
cornrow braids instead. To kind
and then I would do. I'd want a mullet. I'd do a mohawk, and then I'll go fully bald. That would be my pathway to baldness.
Sounds good.
Cool. So over the course of the 24 hours, we'll live those steps with you.
Sure.
Can
we
you
could
do it
that.
during the live stream?
Maybe. Look, I'm not committing to anything. This is all just dialogue.
Will you sign this document?
Yeah.
Sign this and drink.
All right, one last question, then it's time to eat.
Okay. Well, which one do you want? COVID or sleep?
Sleep.
Okay. How good is the evidence for sleep type? The natural time a person wants to sleep, and does it have any bearing on productivity?
From what I know, the evidence is pretty good in terms of there are night owls and morning people, you mean?
Larks and owls.
Yeah, so people, there is some evidence that if you just let people stay to the schedule that they gravitate towards, they do function better. Like don't force everybody to be a morning person if there's somebody who just naturally wants to stay up later. But I don't know that there's a definitive evidence about that, but the evidence that we have suggests that people do fall into different types in terms of their circadian rhythm, and it's always better to let people sleep as much as they want to.
But that said, it does seem like the strongest evidence out there, and this is something I've been studying a lot because I've been working with patients who are struggling with sleep disturbance a lot, is the strongest evidence out there is for proper sleep hygiene. And the number one thing is go to bed at the same time every night and wake up at the same time every day.
It should be the same time.
Yeah, no matter what, if it's early, if it's late, if you vary that too much, that's what can be really detrimental to your sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, good sleep hygiene is important. The other thing that's been really in the literature recently is no bright lights, especially close-up bright lights before sleep. So like
cell phones.
Cell phone in the bed, horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
No caffeine. Try not to have any caffeine after like 12 o'clock noon.
Even that's
and
too
try
late.
not to do things in your bed that aren't sleep or sex.
Yeah.
Really, don't work in bed. I mean, if you read before you go to sleep every night, that's a great way to wind down. Or if you meditate, but don't work in bed, don't eat in bed, don't do activities of daily living in bed.
All right, guys. So everybody have a happy Halloween if you celebrate Halloween. You will not be hearing from us until after the U.S. election. So we will have plenty to say next week, a week ago from today. But we will also be discussing the election on our podcast, which we record next Wednesday, which is the day after election. So who knows what there will be to talk about, but we will end up saying something about it.
That
I'd like
happened,
to say,
probably.
yes.
Yeah, it might be. We don't know what's happening.
It happened, and what? Stay tuned.
I want to thank all the SGU patrons. I know a lot of the people that watch this live stream are patrons. We really appreciate your support, guys. It really, keeps the doors open for us. And you also responded to our call, and I can thank you guys a million times. It's never going to be enough, but I do appreciate you helping us out in this, hard financial year for us. So Thank you. We'll see you next week. Everybody, Carrie, you look wonderful.
I have 2 things to say, Jay.
Yes.
I dissent, and until there are 9.
All right, guys.
Bye.
See you next time. Go out and vote. Universe SGU Productions, dedicated to promoting science and critical thinking. For more information, visit us at theskepticsguide.org. Send your questions to info@theskepticsguide.org. And if you would like to support the show and all the work that we do, go to patreon.com/skepticsguide and consider becoming a patron and becoming part of the SGU community. Our listeners and supporters are what make SGU possible.